Podcast guesting and speaking on stages is one of my favorite strategies to get in front of new and ideal prospects. How would your business change if you could turn each of those appearances on podcasts and stages and earn $10,000 or maybe even more? Today, my guest, Beth Nydick, is going to share exactly how she does just that with her FAME, F-A-M-E framework. Welcome to the show, Miss Beth. The first time I saw you speak at PodFest, there were tech issues. And I always tell all of my private clients, there's always going to be tech issues. Like always just be open and prepared for something to go wrong. And something did go wrong in your room. You acted like a pro and you just walked to the middle of the room because it was a big room. And you just spoke loudly and started getting the crowd all riled up. So congratulations. I really loved that.
I appreciate that so much. Yeah, I think you just have to kind of roll with the punches. And actually, somebody said to me, "Oh my God, I don't know if I could have done that." And I'm like, "What would you have done? Like stood in the corner and cried? Like there wasn't a choice." And I
Right.
guess so I have an actress background. The show must go on, and thank God I can propel my voice in a big room. And the other part of that is thank God I saw some of my friends in the audience because those are the ones I picked on. So to be comfortable, I was prepared to just do it off the top of my head and keep talking and get people involved. But, I think that's the actress in me. It's the former camp counselor in me.
It's, speaking is really using all of your skills and just being fully present in the moment. But I am super stoked about this topic about how to make 10K from your next podcast appearance. And I'm all about podcasting. And actually, before we go into that, can we just talk about the fact that you don't have your own podcast?
No, I did that, done that. Don't want to do that again. I just found that I can do it in different ways, which you've been on my Instagram show.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's not part of what I want to spend my time doing. And I love being a guest. I love showing up and talking about my passions for an hour or a half hour or 20 minutes, whatever it is. But I don't think that you need a podcast to grow your business. I think if you have a growing business with a growing audience, that's when you create a podcast. I think people really do it too early because it's one of those things they're supposed to do versus how is this going to fit into your visibility plan? Who are you going to have on to help do that? So if you're creating something that actually is not going to make you money, I don't think it's worth it.
Right, right. Agree. And, being a podcast guest, this is OPA, other people's audiences. And
Yeah.
I'm such a huge fan. That's what makes speaking so phenomenal. So is it fair to say that making 10K from your next podcast appearance could also be making 10K from your next stage appearance? Like
Oh,
physical
100.
stage, virtual stage?
It could be from a community talk. It could be from anything you're doing. It's just really about how you're presenting yourself, the things that you're saying, and also how you're promoting it. And I
Okay.
work with my clients are TEDx speakers to, speakers like I did a couple community talks this week. It's really just about how you're intentionally showing up and what you're doing around that intention to make you money.
I want to dive into all of that, how you made that magic happen.
Well, it's what I do on podcasts as well. Like I'm really thinking about who the listener is, what they need to hear, and when they need to hear it. Right. So even in the first couple minutes that we've been talking, you've helped me establish my credibility by being on stages and telling that story. Right. And then talking about what I do and how I do it. It's not just let's have a conversation. I intentionally hit pinpoints or pain points or information points along the conversation so the listeners can know who I am, know if I'm their person, know if they're my person, which I think is one of those things that people forget, and what my offers are without being like, so you can join my 6-month high. Who wants to hear that? Or you
Yeah.
want to hear a case study about somebody who's in my program, which is called the Fame Lab, and it is a high touch mastermind mentorship. She already came in with TED Talks. She's got another one. She's on plenty of podcasts. She's finally stepping into the brand she always wanted and using podcasting to leverage all of that brand information that she's created for herself to make real money.
Very nice. Very nice. So let's get a little more specific because you just gave like the cliff notes to exactly what you're supposed to do, everybody. And thank you for listening to this episode.
And that's the point though, and is like if only if they listen to the first 3 minutes and they're already looking on my Instagram to see who I am. That's what I want to happen. And that's what I want everyone listening, for people to be so enthralled with listening to it while on their walk that they're scrolling onto Instagram to see who you are and downloading my how to make 10K checklist right away before they even finish listening.
I love that. Being so intentional in those first few minutes that you really are hooking in the listener to want to continue to keep listening to the end, because now everybody wants to know, like, well, where do I get this checklist? Let me
Exactly.
learn more, because now I'm going to say, okay, let's, like, when you are working with a client to do exactly this, to make 10K from this podcast interview, what is like the first step that you tell them to do?
It's mindset. And I think that's the first step for anything. And I call it, it's under what I created, which is the FAME formula. And the F for FAME formula is fearless mindset.
Mm,
Overcoming the imposter syndrome, owning your own expertise. And for me, it's detaching from the outcome. If you're
mhm.
worried about what's going to happen, like for example, and I know a lot of your listeners feel this way. I had a conversation with somebody in a community talk, and she was talking about how she didn't want trolls. And I was like, I've had two my entire career, and I used it for humor. Like, who told you were going to be trolled? She's like, well, I see this person and this person. I'm like, well, they're celebrities, right? So it's getting out of your own way to actually do the stuff, to go on the podcast, to be bold, to say the things. And once you can get past that, then you can position yourself as an authority. You can create the media that you want to create and then be a monetization expert and use all those things that you create to transform your knowledge into things people know they need from you.
Oh, I just love that. That is so juicy.
That's the FAME formula: fearless mindset, authority positioning, media mastery, and expert monetization.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so first is mindset. Check. You definitely have that, by the way. I mean, the first time I met you, well, I mean, to get up on stage, you have to have a certain amount of confidence anyways. And especially when the tech went down, you did a spectacular job. So you were very comfortable, with what was going on. Like you said, the show must go on. Okay, so we're checking off the mindset. What is that next step?
It's that positioning yourself as an authority and becoming that undisputed leader in your niche. Like, what is it that you want to be known for? You have to know that. Because when you go on a
Mhm.
podcast and you're just going to have a conversation, which makes my brain hurt, I'm like, why would you ever just have a conversation?
Yeah.
It's understanding who you are, what you're about, and what you want to be known for. So that when I always want somebody to talk about me in a room the way that I want to be talked about. Oh, Beth's a media expert. Oh, Laurie-Ann is an expert in speaking and getting you on the right stages and making the right money from the stages, right? Like, what is that thing that you want to position yourself? That's the A, the authority. The media mastery is actually getting media, because if you don't have media, you can't do any of this stuff. And people out there, like, if you're listening and you think getting media is hard, DM me the word hard and I will send you a guide that proves to you that it's not hard, because everybody listening has a friend or has a friend of a friend that has a podcast or an Instagram or a Facebook or a LinkedIn that they can be on. Like, it's just about asking for what you want.
Okay, so I think that just needs a little bit more explanation, because when
Yeah.
you say media, I think the New York Post, I think Forbes. Okay, so I think that big media, and I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I wouldn't have considered that to be media. That's interesting that you're bringing this up for me.
It's funny you say that, because other people have said that to me too. I'm like, why wouldn't it be media? What category would you put podcasting in?
Speaking.
Okay. Well,
Like
that's a pretty
yeah, for me, it's just another stage. But then again, like a magazine article is another form of a stage also, because I consider my books to be stages also. Okay.
or
Okay.
visibility vehicles. We could put it that way,
Yes.
right? Get visibility. So when you have something to leverage and amplify, having that consistently happen. If you look at what I do, I look like I consistently always have podcasts and interviews and things coming out. And most of the times I do, but like this summer, I want to hang out with my kids. But if you go back, I just reshared all the things I had been on in third and second quarter instead of worrying about, not having stuff to go out. So it's not just about being on stuff. It's about leveraging the stuff you've already had. And that's how you become a media master, is you use the fame formula to create that opportunity in your business. And
And
then
I've seen you do that, repurposing all of your stuff. You must be so damn organized, like on your phone or something with folders, because I just feel no.
not at all. I would not call myself organized.
Well, then how do you like remember to like, oh wow, I haven't like reshared this particular moment in a while.
So what I do, I have a content calendar. That's a year-long content calendar. And what I'll do is after your podcast airs, I will pencil in, I'm an old fart. I will put into my Google Calendar the link to your podcast. So I know that that day I'm resharing something from the interaction that we had. So it's really just, I don't know if I call that organized, but it's just recalendar. And the other side of that is, to be completely honest, like if I, like, we have a friend, Allison Hardy, who has a great podcast as well. I listened to a podcast. She had a great guest on. So I shared that I was on. And then I shared a couple of her guests because it, it, it came to me. Honestly, I was like, I'm just going to do this. And I just kind of do it and then move on. But I need to have both that in the calendar and then those inspired actions
I
along.
got it. Yeah. So I guess what I was thinking about, some of those forgotten things, like, wow, it's been over a year since I was on that podcast and I haven't even mentioned it, in 9 months. But just because you are a master at doing that. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. But
I appreciate that, but it's thinking about how you can leverage that content later. And the other side of it is like, why share it once? Why share it when it comes out? If you share it 3 months from now, 6 months, and 9 months from now, the information is still good, right? I'm talking about how to make 10K, but for the next 18 months. This is what my focus is. This is the only thing I'm doing. So all of the content that I create over the next 18 months is streamlined into people downloading the checklist and then getting into my programs. Right? Like
right.
that's, so the intention of how I'm making money from all of this is there. And then just being organized in the back end to be able to put into your content calendar, or you're just, it's honestly my Google calendar. I just put it in and put your name in the link, and then I know what I'm doing. And I actually have a new team. So I'm training my new team to be able to take that and then create it for me.
Love that. Love that. So it's about just developing a new habit.
Yeah, it's a system. It's a system
Yeah.
of how to leverage and amplify. And that's what the fame formula really came from. Half of it is how you do it, and the other half is an actual system of how you create media for yourself all the time and how you continually share, amplify, and leverage it.
Mm, brilliant. Just brilliant. So what would be next?
The last would be E, would be expert monetization. And that's what we're talking about, is how to transform your knowledge into sound bites,
Hmm.
right? Because when you're on a podcast, you're going to pick out audio assets, sometimes audio assets, or you're going to put your episode through Opus AI and create little clips. But what are you saying in those clips that you can then share on your social media? But it's not just social media. It's your email list. It's the groups that you're in. I'm in Hey Mama and Entreprenista. You don't think I'm sharing in there almost every day something, right? I'm continually being visible. I want everyone's goal for that when they talk to an old friend who's like a digital friend, they're like, "Oh my God, you're everywhere." The reflection I got yesterday was really interesting too, is about not being connected to what happens with it. And I kind of want to give everyone permission to do that. Like, it makes my life so much easier, and it really gives permission to my clients to just kind of do what they want to do and not
Hmm.
worry about they're doing the right thing, or it's this or that, or how I'm going to look, or what my hair looks like, what all the stuff. Right. But if if you have this system and this formula in your business and you can use it, that there's no questions because you know what you're doing next.
Yeah, I love systems because it takes the emotion out of, do I feel like doing this? What should I do? It's just like, oh, here's step one, here's step two. It's like I just do the thing. I kind of call it that as entrepreneurs, we have this split personality. Half of you is the CEO and half of you is the employee. And the CEO says, go do this. And so like as the employee, if you want to keep your job, you don't say, yeah, I don't really feel like doing that today. It's like, well, if you don't, as your boss, I will fire your ass.
So, but you kind of fire myself? I didn't know I could do that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think you could. That then one of your other personalities will show up. So let's talk about, where did you come up with this strategy, this process?
It's a system that I was using for myself forever. This is actually my third business in digital. My first business was a food photographer, blogger, TV host, like I was in the food side of this industry for a long time. And then I moved over to the business side. And it's how I got myself on Dr. Oz. It's how I got myself on lots of national TV in the food space. And I just been developing it for myself. And when I started helping, because what happened was I had a cocktail, so I also have a cocktail cookbook that traditionally,
I was on your website. I wanted to talk to you about the cookbook.
it's just something I was really into. And like you said before, I had an idea and I just went for it without being connected to what the outcome was going to look like. My uncle actually was the only one that said to me, like, you don't really drink. And I was like, it's not about me drinking. It's about something I see in the marketplace that people need that no one's providing. And why not me?
Interesting. So what is the cookbook, by the
It's
way?
called Clean Cocktails, Righteous Recipes for the Modern Mixologist. I'm a health coach, and I had clients that were saying, like, but can I have a cocktail, or what kind of cocktail? Or, oh, I had a margarita and I ruined everything. And I was a bartender in college, and I honestly, my body doesn't like sugar that much. So a lot of the recipes were recipes that I just developed for myself. And I got to do the book with this a wonderful woman. Her name's Tara Rossioli. Her company is Highway to Well. Go check her out. She had she also had the other side of it, had amazing cocktail recipes that she loved. We put this book together, got an agent, got a book deal, and I've been leveraging that since 2017. And now I'm making zero proof cocktails because my body doesn't like alcohol anymore. But instead of
Mm.
giving up what I've created for myself, I'm now using pieces of it because there is a whole mocktail section in the book itself. But now I'm leaning into this new trend that I don't see a lot of people talking about. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
that business strategy. And that's really where I come from everything is my parents are entrepreneurs.
I didn't know that.
So my parents own car washes and real estate and travel company. And, my dad is amazing. And I was a daddy's girl riding around in the car in the 80s with my dad's huge cell phone, really listening to him enroll people in ideas that he had and making it happen. Like
Mm.
just, and
What an education.
I didn't realize what an education I got about 5 years ago, to be honest.
Mm.
And so I watched him have an idea and build a very successful empire,
Mm.
and gleaned all the information I could, and then I tried to use it myself. And so my kids are in college. One of my sons is a business major, and every once in a while he'll be like, "Oh, mom, they talked about X, Y, and Z in class, and I knew that because I listened to you talk to your client." Right?
Oh,
So it's
nice.
that paying forward and being a part of it, but it's really about the having an idea and having enough not invested in the outcome or invested enough in that you believe that you can make something happen. And that's also like going on podcasts because you and I, this is like nothing, right? This is like we're having a conversation and it's fine. And we're not worried about how we look or what we're doing. But most people who are not seasoned speakers, because I think, Laurie-Ann, I think I've been speaking since I was 16.
Nice.
So I've been doing, I've been in front of large crowds my entire life, but most people aren't. And most people, this makes them
Right.
very nervous. So having a plan, like the checklist for my clients or having the fame formula so they know what they're doing when, it makes it easier to show up as yourself and to be
Yes.
able to convert those listeners into clients with the information that you're passionate about, right? What your thing is. Your listeners listening to my stories about the book and my parents, like that gives me more credibility. Like, and I always like to reflect that back when I'm on podcasts instead of like just telling stories. So whatever you have in your background that you're not sharing that can help your clients understand who you are at a core level, those are the
Mhm.
stories you need to be sharing on your podcast. And to be completely honest, if you listen to 10 of my podcasts, you'll hear all of my stories, not even 10, 5 probably. You'll hear all the stories I share because I'm intentional about what stories I'm sharing that connect to my offer and the intention of getting you to know about those offers and become a client.
I love that. One of my big stories that I say over and over again is actually in my introduction is I'm a reformed painfully shy girl who couldn't even make eye contact and I accidentally became a professional speaker. I mean, I like it because it's so hard to believe that a professional like you couldn't make eye contact once upon a time. It's like, yeah, I'm living proof that you can teach your nervous system new tricks.
Right. So if I feel like that, but I'm called to make a bigger impact or speak, then I know that Laurie-Ann's my person, right? Because you understand that she feels your pain.
Yes.
And
And I
that's
have
a
a
different way of doing it, right? Like I think people and I think people work with me because they know that I'm going to help them get to where they want to go, and they can't get there on their own.
And I feel like what you're teaching people and how you go about this is, hey, like, I'm just going to make the ask. What's the worst that happens? Somebody says no. But also just like every time that you're like repurposing all of that content from the past, stages, podcast interviews, articles, TV appearances about your cookbook and mocktails, just repeating that so that you're right. Like people see you over and over and over again. And they're just like, there she is on stage, like there she is on this other podcast, and yeah, you're reusing it. And as a podcast host, I love the idea that you're here and you're going to keep re-sharing my podcast again and again and again. And you did it just yesterday.
Yeah, that's part of the formula. And right, we have to make sure we do a little video before we get off our call because I forgot to do that yesterday. But it's sharing before you go on, and that's what the checklist and it really tells you. It's those things to do before, during, and after a podcast interview, so that you can leverage it. But actually, I got a reflection from a class I was teaching recently. Jen Liddy, who's an amazing friend of mine, I think you know Jen as well. She's ridiculously amazing. If you need messaging and branding, you should definitely talk to her. She was like, but do I have to do all of this? Right? Like, this is a lot for me to fit into what I'm doing. Do I have to do all of this? And other people were like, I don't, going on camera like you do, Beth, that's not my thing. So if you do one thing differently, one thing more, according to the checklist or according to, things that I've shared today, that's going to make a difference. That's going to move the needle. Just putting in your story once or making a one post about it, like, I don't know why people think that that's enough. It makes it boggles my mind. It's like, you think everyone's going to see everything you post? That's interesting. If you could tell me how you make that happen, then I have a different business idea for you.
I want to go back to one of the other thing that you said, and it was about seeing what's missing in the market. Now, something that I tell my clients when they are going to, like getting booked at conferences can be a long game. You attend the conference this year, you meet the meeting planners, whoever's putting the event together, and having a conversation so that hopefully the goal is to get booked for the following year by building that relationship. But I've been telling clients, when you go to the conference, notice what's missing. This conference was great. I loved this episode. I loved this session, this breakout session, this keynote speaker. Here's what I noticed could enhance this next year. Noticing what's missing that people actually want.
Yeah, that's why I closed my PR firm and started really, really just talking about how to make money from media because nobody else was talking about it. Everybody was talking about how to get media, how to find the right journalist, how to make a friend of a producer. I'm like, okay, you guys teach that. I'm not competing with you with that. I'm going to go over here in this lane. So I'm actually the next step because nobody was talking about the next step. And I haven't really said this to anybody, but like one of the things I want to do next, once I'm ready, once I've launched this iteration of the Fame Lab, which is my 6-month program, I'm going to start going to those people who have huge audiences, be like, hey, do you want to affiliate? Can I teach a class? Because I'm not competing with you. I'm the next step to what you do.
Nice.
So seeing where
Right.
the holes are and understanding where you can fit yourself into. Because if you're trying to compete with everybody else and like everyone be like, there's a million business coaches. Okay, but what's your in particular niche? Going back to the Fame formula, what's that authority positioning that you have that nobody else talks about? But I want to add one more thing. That's how I pitch podcasts as well. And if so say I was pitching your podcast and I would listen, of course. And I've learned so much about from exactly what you just said. I was like, oh, I remember listening to that on a podcast. It's so smart because people all the time are like, how do I get in a conference? You're like, you have to work it. It's not just pitching it. But for a podcast, I think you go to their Apple, their podcast listing of all of their episodes, and you start going through their episodes, listening for a few minutes to each one and see what they're not talking about.
Yeah.
So when you're pitching and I pitch, hey, I loved your episode with Laurie-Ann talking about how to get in a conference. This really spoke to me, how I need to make friends with them after I go, all the stuff. But I noticed you really don't talk about how to leverage media and visibility for income. I'd love to talk to your audience about that. These are the 5 things I would talk about. Let's have a conversation. Like, that's the pitch that I would send, because it's about finding those places that you can fit in that naturally make sense and intentionally understand that you can connect with them. Because if you're pitching a podcast, everybody, it needs to be your audience, not just anybody, right? It
Right.
needs to be your ideal audience. And then you're not only serving yourself, but you're actually serving the podcaster to have content that'll be new and not generic and something interesting to their audience that they haven't done before.
Love that. And I also want to add to that, like I've had somebody on my podcast a couple of times who spoke about PR, but you had a very different approach. And that was a while ago that I had that person. So I guess what I'm sharing with everybody is don't be afraid if you see somebody who already had the exact same thing. One of my clients talks about money, and there was a money mindset, and there was a podcast that she wanted to be on. She did her research and she was like, oh, she already had somebody. I'm like, so put it in your calendar, like to pitch her again, like in 3 months, or here's how my episode, me sharing with your audience, will be different than episode 491 of, with such and such.
And don't we, as business owners or podcasters, want to be like, oh, I didn't even realize I was missing that piece. I didn't know that was a, like, people say to me, like, oh, I didn't even think about leveraging my podcast. Well, then we should have a conversation about it, right? Understanding that your audience is there. And then looking also, and I want to connect it to an offer, understanding what you're going to be offering them that's also different than everybody else has talked about. Right?
Say,
Like,
dive into that a little more for me.
like when I was creating the how to make 10K for your next podcast interview checklist, I was really looking to see what people were using as vehicles for lead magnets. Was it a guide? Was it an ebook? Was it a one-sheeter that gets you nowhere? Like, I wanted to create something different. And I looked, and nobody had a checklist for leveraging and amplifying and how to make money from your podcast. So that's why I created the checklist. And that's why mine's different than everybody else's. And my point of view is different from everybody else's because I am a former TV producer. This is not my first rodeo in digital marketing. I've been in other places. I've been in the food business and I've been in other places of digital marketing. So I come to it from a different point of view than somebody who's just been, as a corporate and then a business coach, or, worked in PR and now teaches PR. My background gives me that digital entrepreneurship and the media expertise so that you actually get wins from the things that you download from my platforms. Like, that's what it's.
This has been so wonderful. Would you please tell people, because you've been mentioning it this entire time, would you tell them where they can get this checklist?
100%. You can actually get it from any of my platforms at Beth Nydick. That's Nydick. Yes, NY New York Dick. Go to my link in bio or Instagram, or you can download it right from my website. But as always, I ask, please send me a DM because I answer my own, and let me know how you have made 10K for your next podcast interview.
Wonderful. And that link is definitely going to be down below. If you are exercising, driving, doing errands, or maybe cooking, just pause for a moment. Either text this episode to yourself to remind you later, email this episode to yourself to remind you later to go get that checklist and start following this beautiful soul who you completely gave so much information. And I so appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone stop what they're doing and go download the checklist.
Yes, yes.
I
Okay.
yeah.
So everybody, till next week, be in demand.